Oh, my days. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Flip. I was live whilst I was just waiting for... Oh, my days. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's just standard me all over. Welcome. CPI comes in a little bit higher, 2.7%. That's the inflation. And everything seems to be rocking right now. Bitcoin's climbing up nicely. We got Ethereum and Solana making some nice movements. And you got Ray Dalio saying, don't buy debt, buy hard money. Gold and Bitcoin. Ain't that nice? Coming from one of the biggest hedge funds out there, Bridgewater Associates. And if you're familiar with Ray Dalio, you know, he talks about how powers of the world, they're always going to be transitioning. And he thinks that the US is the next country to fall. You know, a power shift is going to happen. Well, with the way things are going, I don't think so, man. You've got Biden putting out some more tariffs on China, China getting screwed left, right, and center. And I personally believe that China's going to say, you know what? Forget it. Let's just do something. And they're going to start invading Taiwan. That's what I think is going to happen. But whilst that's all happening over there, ladies and gentlemen, we got some new Bitcoin price predictions coming into play, especially from the CEO of Bitwise. He's kind of busy, you know. He's always talking about it. But we're going to be talking about that. And BlackRock. What is BlackRock doing? Is it manipulating data? I mean, we like to look at the Arkham intelligence and assume that we kind of see what's going on with the inflows and the outflows of Bitcoin ETF. We saw this massive dump on the ETF to only find out that BlackRock wasn't really selling anything. They were just maneuvering it. But why would they maneuver in the first place? Just leave it there. What's your plan? You know? So I'm going to be diving into that and just having a look at the numbers because they've just soared straight back to that nice key, 495,000. So we're close towards the 500,000 zone. So I'm going to be talking about that, but we're going to be looking at what's going on today with the markets, given that we've had some more news about the Bank of Japan. They're not against an interest rate hike. China's doing its hardest. You know, they're trying to induce investors to get involved with their currency, and it's not looking good, man. They're really on their knees begging for money, and investors ain't even biting. So we're going to go into the open, guys. We're going to break it all down for you. So welcome to today's live stream, minus the whistling at the start. I still need to go and get some more baubles for my tree, man. I'm telling you, it fell down twice. How does that? How does a tree fall twice? You know, doesn't make sense. I paid £70 for this tree holder that can withstand a tree that can be stood 2.5 meters high. It's clear as day that the tree that I got, right, was one that was lopsided anyway. And they thought, yeah, just chuck that in just in case we can say, don't waste anything. I picked that tree. Anyways, welcome to today's live. Let's get with the program. Here we go. So, they're all moving up, guys. Everything's going up. We've got Ethereum making a nice little move. We go to the NASDAQ. Unfortunately, I'm not trading the NASDAQ right now. I don't trust it. I'm trading crypto instead. I managed to exploit crypto last night. Okay, so I was trading the Asian session last night on Ethereum and Bitcoin. So we managed to exploit the move up on Bitcoin. Yep, we use a bit of leverage, but I'm cool with leverage. You got to remember, I come from Forex. So I'm using 500 to 1 leverage all the time. I was using 5,000 to 1 in leverage in Forex back in the day. Then they cut it down to about 1,000 to 1. And they were like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that. Now it's 500 to 1. Now they're dropping it down to around 30 to 1, depending on where you are. But we managed to exploit a long on Bitcoin last night. And we cleared nice $1,600 right there. And then we exploited the same trade at the same time with Ethereum. And we took that. And we got another $2,033. So yeah, go from yesterday to today, about $6,500. That was a nice couple of days as such. But that was last night, and I'm absolutely exhausted from it. But I found that last night they were really moving nicely on Ethereum. And that's what you'll find with Ethereum. It does really, really respect specific levels. And when you're focusing on certain order flow on Ethereum, then you can really gauge the idea of what they could potentially be preparing for. All right. This might look a little bit alien to you all, guys, but when you understand what you're looking at and you can see subtle changes in the order flow, it gives you an insight into understanding how money is moving into the markets, moving out of the markets, and where they're actually looking at sending money, or should I say sending price, to fulfill orders. Now, with that being said, going over into the markets, you can see that everything's looking good. Treasury yields have come down and the core price index climbed. That's a problem. The core price index just tells you if manufacturers are actually increasing their cost of goods and services, okay? And one thing you've got to take into consideration is this. The Fed has already committed, and it looks like that traders are betting on the fact that the Fed is going to commit to interest rate cuts, okay? But remember, the Fed, or the US, currently stands right now with the highest interest rate, okay, against many banks, or the main banks themselves. Eurozone's been cutting their rates, UK's been cutting their rates, and that's really that puts the US at a strategic advantage, because if it all else fails, investors are naturally going to go over to the bonds market and seek high yields, which is where money is going to be going into the United States. Let's not forget that Trump is going to be offering companies and wealthy investors $1 billion if they invest $1 billion into the United States. So he's really he's making it possible that the US stays on top, okay? But then that just makes me think, how long is this sustained for? Going into an article like this, the yen, this is a problem, guys. And this is what Japan does all the time, okay? They dangle the carrot and they give us the idea that something could be happening. So the market starts to price that in. We go into the chart of the Japanese yen and you can see that it has taken a bit of a tumble to the downside, and it's now working down back into previous vector candle recovery regions. It would be of the assumption that investors are now borrowing more yen, okay, to put it to work so that they can then invest in other assets such as the NASDAQ, such as Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin's doing wonderfully right now. Yeah, it's doing all right. It's made a nice little bounce from that range to the upside, but I feel as though there's a little bit of a resistance when we hit that 100K. It's like every time Bitcoin goes to 100K, it just likes to reject from it. So we really need to see some positive activity coming into cryptocurrency. One being BlackRock not really getting rid of anything. As you can see, 495,000 on the ETF. It looks like it's all good. They seem to have stalled out at this point right here. So we're going to wait and see what happens in the market once the futures markets do actually open, and really give investors the idea of if everything's all right. You know, it's now the time to get involved in something, okay? Now, just having a look at what's hitting the news across the board. Check this out. Alphabet shares jumped 6% after Google touts breakthrough in quantum chip, okay? So this is where this FUD behind the ideal of quantum computing could be compromising Bitcoin. Now, word on the street is that the Satoshi wallet could face quantum risks only because it says here that there are vulnerabilities in the P2PK format. It's old, but doesn't look like anyone's doing it. And even if they were to attempt it, according to Sarah, we're decades away from that. So even though quantum computing is out and they're going to try and put that to work somewhere, it's going to take a little while for it to really catch on. So we don't really need to worry about it. Satoshi's wallet is sitting nicely and no one's hacked into it just yet. And that's what really the purpose of it was in its creation, just to see if it's possible for someone to try and hack it. And people can't even retrieve cryptocurrency from their lost passwords. I know you might hear about some, but no, you don't. You actually don't. So it's nothing to be too concerned about. Here are your price predictions. Look at this. Bitcoin to 200K, Ethereum to 7,000, Solana to 750 in 2025. Wonderful. So go away. Thank you. So you're getting this investment prediction from Bitwise. It says Ethereum, Solana also set for record highs driven by layer 2 activity and decentralized finance adoption. And the stablecoin market is expected to double in size, reaching 400 billion amid anticipated US regulatory clarity. Now, you remember me talking about Circle. The CEO of Circle wanted to try and get the company Circle listed on the US stock exchange, which would then make it deemed as a competitor on Coinbase, okay, for Coinbase in terms of the stablecoin market. Now you've got Ripple coming out with their stablecoin, which is naturally going to be fueling XRP. But I do believe that the stablecoin market is really where cryptocurrency is going to attract a lot of institutional players, because behind the stablecoin story is the reliability of stability. It's not prone to wild price swings like you would see with cryptocurrency overall, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. So that's where I think the actual idea of stable coins is going to benefit. So keep an eye on Circle, because if we've got this eased, relaxed SEC who's pro crypto, then naturally that's going to be something that Circle's going to benefit from. So pay attention to the Circle story and be mindful of any attempts for funding for an IPO. Okay. Now, I think MicroStrategy's, you know what, I might slate this company, okay, fundamentally. But with this potential NASDAQ 100 listing, they're going to raise another $2.1 billion. Where do you think that money's going, ladies and gentlemen? It's certainly not going to dye Michael Saylor's gray hair now, is it? No. That stuff's going to be going all the way over to Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be very interesting to see. That's naturally going to be fueling MicroStrategy's share price, which I do believe that anyone that's taken part in the bond that MicroStrategy has offered, I think they're going to start taking some profits on MicroStrategy, because all it needs to do is get to around $629, which is initially what the target is for a return for anyone that took part in the actual bond offering, the convertible bond offering that MicroStrategy has offered lately. I think it's the 3 billion one. So this is really good news for MicroStrategy once they get listed on the NASDAQ. And the real goal is to get on the S&P, but they lack profitability. So if they can show profitability as a company, then there's going to be even better chance for them to go onto the S&P itself. Now, $400 million in 9 days, okay? And it says here that Bitcoin is not done in terms of the ETF inflows and outflows. Well, we know what's going on with the inflows and outflows because this figure has just been fluctuating like no tomorrow. We quickly go over to the iBIT ETF story itself. It seems like it's pulling back ever so slightly. We've got ourselves a little bit of a gap up in the ETF itself. And gap up towards around 56.10. Now, if Bitcoin's price continues to go down from this current point, then there is a possibility that this gap will look to get filled as well. Going into the open with the stock market, you've got NVIDIA gapping up as well. But NVIDIA gapping up, of course, you've got that Chinese probe about the anti-monopoly law as such. So that kind of is affecting NVIDIA in some way, shape or form. But you've got to remember, there's a big event coming up to NVIDIA. There's going to be a key speaker event, and CEO of NVIDIA, he's going to be talking about what NVIDIA has got planned in the future. That's going to be a massive catalyst for NVIDIA. So I believe that NVIDIA right now is currently in an accumulation phase. You're probably going to see NVIDIA maybe try and get down towards the 128 region itself. I think that will be a fantastic discount before it then goes and claims the all-time high again. So that's going to be something interesting. But remember what I said, the Japanese yen, we've got that event coming on the banker the 19th of December, straight after the FOMC press conference. So I would suggest that anyone that's trying to work out whether or not they should be buying right now, you're going to be improving the odds of a quarterly move, because I'm assuming that spot holders are guys who will be holding Bitcoin for a period of more than a month, okay? Tell me what are your durations of buying Bitcoin on spot? How long are you actually holding Bitcoin for? So if you're in that situation where you would hold it for like a period of 3 months, after the FOMC press conference and after the Bank of Japan press conference, which is on the 19th of December, that would then set you up to give you a better clear look on whether or not you should be investing in Bitcoin, because it could mean that they increase their interest rate. That will force carry traders to start closing off their positions, selling dollars, convert those dollars back into Japanese yen, invest in the Japanese bond market because they've effectively increased their interest rate. So that means they're going to want to lock in a yield on the Japanese yen. Plus, the cost of actually borrowing yen has now gone up, so they've got to get out of those dollar exposures, which means that if they're long on NASDAQ, S&P, the Dow, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, stocks, they're going to have to pull out those dollars and sell those dollars, try and get a profit, chuck it back into the yen, and then you'll have an understanding of how the market is going to then price itself for the future, okay? Because then all you'll be waiting for is, how long is it going to be until the market then goes back into the carry, okay? Now, usually when the carry trade principle gets unwind, we can see from the volatility index that it means that we're probably going to be seeing a spike in the volatility index like we did last time when the carry trade came in, which was over here. And you can see that's the volatility index. That was the result of the carry trade. If we make the assumption that they do increase the interest rates, that means we're going to then see the VIX itself shoot up again, which means everything will come down. And if you do see that happening, that would be a good time for you to start getting involved in assets. because the expectation is, oh my God, it's bad news. But that's when you buy the blood. Okay. So that's what I'm effectively looking for once the Bank of Japan come out with the idea of increasing their interest rates. But there is a possibility that they won't. Traders are betting for the idea that there's going to be a 60% chance that they are going to increase the interest rates. That has dropped from 72%, but it's still 60% chance. Now, swap traders, their fluctuations in their expectation of where they think an event's going to end up, that is always changing, okay? Right now, the bets for swaps on the Fed cutting the interest rates are shooting up to around 82%. So we're pretty much getting a rate cut on the US dollar itself. Taking that over to the 10-year and the 2-year yield, you can see the yields are shooting down, and that's really good. But that's also going to be forcing investors to quickly try and lock in some yield, which I would naturally expect the bond market to keep on going up, which you can see right now, 10-year bonds market is starting to climb higher. We did say yesterday that investors are going into the bonds by the principle of ETFs. So they're obviously having an expectation that the bonds are going to increase in value. And then, of course, you've got the story right here from Ray Dalio, who says, don't buy debt, buy Bitcoin and gold. The reason he's saying that, guys, is pretty simple. Everyone is in debt, okay? Just look at this chart. This is the world major economies holding US debt, okay? It's like 70% of the world's wealth is locked in the US. That's monopoly. Yeah, that is monopoly, ladies and gentlemen. The US drops, everything drops. UK right now is coming up as a challenger to China. And I wouldn't be surprised if China is going to be offloading some US debt. They are doing so because they're selling it to the Saudis and generating more of a return because they're offering a higher rate of return on the holdings of US debt that they have. Okay, they offered a bid to cover market. They offered an auction of $2 billion worth of US debt. They actually achieved 40 billion. So you can see that the overseas have got a big interest in holding US debt because they can lock in higher rates of return. But right now, what we're seeing is the world, look, they're all holding the US debt. So if the US debt comes to a bit of a problem, then everyone else is going to be experiencing that problem. And Ray Dalio is pretty much saying, get into hard money, buy Bitcoin and buy gold, okay? Not debt assets. Now, you've got to appreciate investment portfolio principles suggests that you invest 60% into stocks, commodities, real estate, whatever it is, ETFs, all right? And then the other 40% into US debt. Now, look, one asset class makes up the majority of an investment portfolio, okay? The other 60% is made up of various other asset classes. Now, if we're talking true asset classes, it's going to be high risk, low risk, okay? But you can see NASDAQ, S&P, the indices, stocks, and commodities. They're various asset classes that make up the 60% of the weight of an investment portfolio, all right? But the bonds themselves, you know, it's if he's saying that, that's naturally going to be inflating the price of Bitcoin. That's naturally going to be inflating the price of gold. And what appeals to the everyday mom and dad investor is not Bitcoin, but gold. But we just need a lot more people to adopt the idea of Bitcoin, okay? And that's something that we've got to take into consideration. Now, I want to tell you this because I know some of you are actually playing the game of meme coins and you're all on your telegrams, okay? Be careful. Saw this article. It says scammers use Telegram to deploy wallet draining malware. So if you're all using your phones, and even if you're installing Telegram on your computers and what have you, and you've got your hot wallets attached to like extensions and Chrome and what have you, like MetaMask and whatnot, Trust Wallet, Coinbase, whatever it is, okay? Just be very careful when you're joining these Telegrams, okay? It's a... You know what I want to say. You know exactly what I want to say. Right, let's get into some price action. Let's have a look at what's going on with the old BTC. Bitcoin, what are you doing, young squire? Let's have a look. Not really giving me much of a flavor towards the red vector candle just yet. Let's have a look at the order flow and understand where we are with price action. So in the middle, we've got Ethereum right here. Okay, and that's the depth of market and order flow as such. And then you've got Bitcoin on the left right here. So looking at where we are right now, we don't seem to be really moving as much, but I do expect Bitcoin to start picking up some flavor as we head into the open of the futures markets. I mean, hey, celebrate. Inflation's going up. That's exactly what this is. The market's pumping on inflation going up. I don't know. You tell me. How has any of the macros that have been happening made sense to the market? You know? Oh, we're not going to cut the interest rates. Never mind. Oh, we're probably going to cut the interest rates. Don't care. Everything goes up. I'm telling you, I had a conversation with one of the engineers on the CME, okay, that review all the algorithms and the computer processing power to get all the orders done. And he said to me, word for word, the sell button doesn't work on the NASDAQ. And it's pretty obvious, isn't it? So I don't know the CM. Well, I do know an engineer there, but never mind. Anyways, so Bitcoin right now is currently trading at value. This is the purple area. It's at value, right? It hasn't really created a value area high, but we've got some orders up here, 165, 141, and 150, okay? What are those orders? Well, those orders are areas in the chart that someone is prepared to sell at, okay? So let me just bring a bit of information for you. In front of you, we have got a stack of offers coming into play, 10 million, 7.5, 9, sorry, 8 million, sorry, going into another million, keep going up, another 7.9 million, and we got 600,000, 1.2, 10 million again. And what the Coinank effectively tells me is this. Sometimes we don't know for sure here, but we don't know who is the participant that is entering with an order that is relatively the same amount, okay? The only thing that I could make the assumption of is it's an iceberg order, okay? Now, what's an iceberg order? An iceberg order is effectively a big order that's effectively split into smaller orders, okay? So that when price gets to 98,000, an order is triggered. 99, it gets triggered. 100, it gets triggered. 101, it gets triggered. And that's what an iceberg order tends to look like, okay? Looking in the order flow here, it looks like there's a lot of people that have woken up and they're now wanting to sell their Bitcoin. You can see that a lot of offers are coming in. Look, they're adding to it. Just had, I don't know if you saw that contrast. It just went brighter. So that's telling me that there is more offers coming into the market because there is an expectation for Bitcoin to try and make a move to the upside, okay? But remember, the data that's just come out is not really consistent with everyone being happy about inflation. It's tend to be good for the dollar in principle, because then that means investors are going to obviously offload certain risks somewhere else, go into the dollar, and the yields naturally will tend to go higher because people want to sit in cash. But we're not really seeing that happening right now. You see, today's data has not determined whether or not the Fed's cutting interest rates. The Fed is cutting interest rates right now, and they've committed to that. But we're still at high interest rate levels, okay? So that's where we've got to be very careful with these moves to the upside. Make sure that you're taking some form of profit, all right? And then get ready for the next commitment to come into play. Now, looking at the offers, you can see from the Asian session last night, which is what I was trading this whole move with Bitcoin to the upside, smack bang towards, after they manipulated price down here, they took the imbalances and then they reversed price back up again. It was a nice little run, but I ended up staying up till about 3:30 in the morning, and that just completely fried my brain. But we made a nice 3.5 grand, so we're happy with that. Happy days, okay? Now, looking at the order flow itself, I'm just saying to you, we'll be very mindful around the 100K region, because that is naturally a trigger to get price moving, to get retail to start buying. Looking in the order flow as such here, I'm seeing still big orders are coming in of Bitcoin collectively across the exchanges. We've got around about 11,000. What is it? Here we go. We've got about 12,000 orders on Bitcoin bid at 90,280. We're not really seeing that many offers coming into play on Bitcoin on the top side. So you're going to go about 4,000 orders up here on 102,000, and not really that much towards the top side over there as well, okay? So it's very important that we pay close attention to that. Going into the liquidations that we've seen so far, so good. This is for Ethereum. Let's quickly go to Bitcoin as well. So we've seen a lot of liquidations, to 22 million in long liquidation, sorry, 12 million in long liquidations, and then of course 10 million in short liquidations. Quickly bringing up the order flow over here just to understand where we are in terms of interest rate. I'm just going to open interest. So yeah, I'm seeing, yeah, some open interest is coming in a little bit high right now. New longs might actually start to come into play right now. I'm not really seeing that much commitment because the order book has shown more commitment to bid side to the downside. But when we get the actual market open itself, that's going to reveal to us if we are going to start working a new value area high in Bitcoin, which comes up above the 98,551. Going into the holders time frame as well, because remember what I said to you yesterday about the holding range. So you can see Bitcoin right now is currently getting above the 5 and 13 EMA. This is massive, okay? Because if this candle can stay above the 5 and 13 EMA, that means Bitcoin would have to drop down pretty aggressively to close below the 5 and 13 EMA, and that means it will go back down to 96, okay? But if Bitcoin can sustain itself above the 5 and 13 EMA, which if you look closely right here, it's these two moving averages, the idea is that the next candlestick will then trade positively to start recovering this candlestick right here. My eye is on the wick. That's what I'm looking at, because I do believe they could potentially come back up in towards this wick. But remember, you're probably going to be stuck in a consolidation zone on Bitcoin going into the FOMC. So realistically, this is where your spot trading is going to occur. And for every move that Bitcoin makes, if you see a benefit of $1,000, $1,500 move in Bitcoin, pay yourself, man. Take something. That's from now until the FOMC and the Bank of Japan press conference. Once that conference is done, I would then be committing to holding a spot trade in Bitcoin or Ethereum for a longer period of time, because we would have had a change in interest rates. Bank of Japan are going to cut or not, and that's going to dictate whether you're going to get Bitcoin on the cheap or not, okay? So in terms of where we are, like fear and greed, you know, there's a lot of greed going off right now in cryptocurrency. So look at this chart right here. Crypto fear and greed index is trading above massive extremes, and we are currently at the 78 reading. So we are still in an element of greed right now, but we haven't peaked. We've peaked out on the concept of greed right there, and that was before Bitcoin hit 100K. Okay, so that was at 99,420. That's when Bitcoin greed was at its most, or cryptocurrency greed was at its highest. We hit 100K, and that wasn't the case. You know, it just didn't. It didn't actually. It was lower. Where was it? It's not even come up on this chart. Can't even find it. Never mind. Never mind. Going into smart money, dumb money. Hold on. Let me just look at stock bond ratio. This is really important. So the stock bond ratio, remember me talking about this. This effectively tells you how overvalued are stocks in relation to the bonds themselves. And since we spoke about it, stocks have been coming down and the bonds have been going up. And we've been seeing that with the ETF of bonds actually starting to rise. And we can justify that with the way prices are behaving of the bonds market itself. Okay, so quickly go over, have a look at the bonds market. Here she is right there. So yeah, bonds are now pulling back. That's not a good sign. Yields might be basing out. And what have I said to you guys? I told you about this candlestick. I said it to you. They're going to come back. That tells me that they're going to come back up again, because that triggers investors to quickly seek yield just in case they don't get enough of it. And they've just done exactly the same thing here. So the logic says that I'm projecting that the yields are going to rise, which could have an impact on assets across the board. Because if the yields rise, that's not good for the stock market, especially tech stocks. Okay? Questions? Hey, do you know what platform you're using for day trading? I'm using BTC.C to trade crypto right now because NASDAQ and the S&P, they're moving with light liquidity. I'm just not comfortable trading NASDAQ or the S&P. I mean, projected a nice little move on the NASDAQ this morning. That worked out nicely for the Platinum members. But I'm just playing around with cryptocurrency right now. But you can trade other assets. Don't have to just trade cryptocurrency on here. We've got tokenized stocks. You've got Forex on here. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to be playing around with these other assets to see how I'm going to take advantage of the leverage and what have you. But, you know, I'm just playing mainly cryptocurrency on here, guys. That's what I'm playing. Mate, what the hell? Yeah, that's what I'm playing, man. I've just been busy trading a bit of crypto because the volatility of cryptocurrency seems to be more favorable than what NASDAQ and the S&P is right now. Forget the fact that there's been news announcements. NASDAQ and S&P tend to be a little bit more, how can I put it to you? They range out quite a bit, right? But there's a lot of hype behind cryptocurrency. The only hype in the stock market right now is the Federal Reserve cutting rates, okay? And that's not until next week. So I'll exploit that on the NASDAQ. I will exploit that on Ethereum. And out of the two, I would always trade Ethereum over Bitcoin. The reason being because as a scalper, it makes it easier for me to exploit, okay? I can get in fast. And if I'm quite frank with you, Ethereum tends to move like the NASDAQ on the depth of market and on tick charts. Okay, so I'll give you an example right here. Just look, this is NASDAQ on the 4,181 tick chart. Okay, and what I look for primarily is, you see these green bids here? These are actually translated as sell orders to the retail trader. So when he sees that, he thinks, oh my God, it's going down. I don't look at that as a sell order. I look at it as a buy order. I go over here and I can see 1.3K right here. That's a sell order, but I know there's bids behind it because people are buying, and people that saw that will be going short. They sure paid the price of going short because they got liquidated right there. Okay. So that's how I use the depth of market. I use the 4-hour time frame to understand where the peaks are in terms of where the most transactions occur in the chart. And on top of that, I then go over to the Coinank when I'm trading cryptocurrency. I look to see how the movements of price on the 5-minute time frame are relative to the price action. So in other words, where are the orders and how are they appearing, and how likely are they going to head towards that based on the way price action is behaving? I recorded a live trading video yesterday breaking that down for the platinum members. Okay. So that's really what I use when I'm trading cryptocurrency. It's not my normal environment in terms of depth of market, but I'm actually looking at the depth of market by paying close attention to the frequency of orders. Now, let me show you something. Can you see this? This is the size and this is the tape. Okay. One key thing about looking at the tape, you might think, what the hell is that? There's no sense to it. Trust me, there is more sense looking at the tape than looking at a candle. Okay. Reason being is, look, there's small orders. I can set a filter on this to give me bigger orders so that I'm filtering out all the madness. But what I'm not paying attention to by setting a filter is I'm eliminating seeing what retail's doing at specific points in time. When you stare at it long enough, you'll notice that most of the orders are 0.00. When you then see an order coming in for like 7, 9, 25, and what you've been witnessing is 0 orders in terms of positive greens. Every time I see positive, negative, positive, look at that. You see all that there? What you just saw, there was lots of 0 orders there, right? So if I'm looking at that, and I can, here you go, look at this. 57, there's a 57 and an 8 and a 3 and 4. What we just saw a minute ago was all those green orders coming in 0.0.0, and then the trigger of 57 orders come in. So I look at that and say, someone's stepping in, selling into retail because retail's coming in, right? I'll then look at that and say, okay, I'll take a long on that logic. And price right now is moving up on that principle. You can see it's going back up. What we just said a minute ago about the bids, I don't look at it as a sell, I look at it as a buy. That little order right there, where was it? Down here. That range. And then it's just shot back up. Okay. So I can exploit that trading Ethereum. But what I've just said about the depth of market, it might sound crazy to you, but you eliminate paying attention to how retail is reacting to what's going on, because that's where I get paid. I get paid on understanding whether retail's coming in because someone else is going to step in line, because retail will always be buying and selling. I want to know when the dude comes in and sells 58 Ethereum contracts, 101 Ethereum contracts. How come he's stepping in afterwards? Because we can see the momentum coming in on retail. So he's going to sell into those guys. Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? Hope it bloody does. Because if it doesn't, then we're screwed. Any other questions? Don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Tino, where do you think we are going to get an alt season between here and the FOMC? I don't think you'll get an alt season from now till the FOMC. You might get a few altcoins making a little bit of a movement, okay? But altcoin season, I mean, yeah, Bitcoin dominance has taken a little bit of a tumble to the downside. I expect it to come back down towards the 55, 69% range. But look, the best way for you to really work out where you are with altcoin season is you've got to work out whether you are going to be trading altcoin season or you are going to be spot and holding for altcoin season. All right. And there's a big difference to it. So here is what I suggest you do. Go over to the totals 3 chart and look at where you are in relation to altcoins. And this chart excludes Bitcoin and Ethereum. So what you want to go and do now, all of you, if you are in the game of altcoins, right? This is for the traders of altcoins, okay? You are now witnessing the altcoin market in market cap fundamentally show you that the majority of altcoins right now are starting to get above the 50 EMA on the 1 hour time frame, okay? So if you're going in for any day trading opportunities, you're going to pull up some altcoins. You're trying to work out which one should I buy? Let me have a look at the white paper. Boring. It's too much time. You want to get in, fast out, okay? You want to do investing in altcoins, then the white paper might take some consideration. Look at XYO. They're going to try and partner up with Tesla. So that might be good news because XYO is all about geotagging. So Tesla might be able to benefit off the back of XYO. So that could be a long-term play if that relationship flourishes. But what's relationship of Tesla got anything to do with XYO on the 1 hour time frame? It doesn't. Take the same logic into XRP. Take the same logic into BNB. Take the same logic into any altcoin that you desire. Now, you might throw me some altcoins and be like, Tino, what about? They're all doing the same thing, okay? They've just got a different name, different market cap to it. But the totals market cap will give you more guidance on what the overall average of altcoins is doing. So, for a day trader, he can see that altcoins right now are trying to break above the 50 EMA. What you want to look for is the altcoin that is already above the 50 EMA. And if it starts to pull back, there'll be accumulation on those altcoins, okay? Which means that if the momentum picks up on the altcoin market cap, and you can see where they have been previously buying altcoins, this rally now would be the selling of those altcoins, which will naturally lead to the rally in prices of altcoins to the upside. So what you're looking for is altcoins right now that are trading above the 50 EMA. That means if the strength of the altcoin starts to come in and this chart continues to rally upwards, those altcoins that pull back towards the 50 EMA are more than likely going to bounce, okay, and continue away from the 50 EMA. There are also altcoins that are mimicking exactly the same thing right here. That's where you're waiting to see the biggest market cap of altcoins that are showing the same behavior on the total market cap. If they're showing the same behavior, that means, and they've got big market cap, you're looking for green vector candles to appear inside of these ranges, okay? And that would then fuel the move up. Now, for a spot player of altcoins, and are we going to get a good altcoin season? What you can see here is we haven't yet touched the key moving average, but we are currently at the 5 and 13 EMA, which is no different to where Bitcoin is right now, okay? So what you're looking for as a spot holder is if you've been accumulating altcoins since these two candlesticks right here, fundamentally, the close of this candle and the open of the next one would effectively lead you to believe that altcoins could potentially climb up going into tomorrow's session. But remember, you've got a big week next week, okay? So there might be a little bit of volatility. It can shoot up to only come back down again. So what you're really looking to do is you're looking to build up a list of altcoins that structurally appear to be looking like they're in accumulation range, okay? Once FOMC is done and the press conference is done for the Bank of Japan, we'll then be going into the idea of a Santa rally. That could then lead altcoins to start making a bit of a move. Bitcoin dominance comes down to around 55.5%. That would then naturally lead you to believe that people are taking profits from Bitcoin going into altcoins. But I don't think they're going to be doing that. I just think they're just going to consolidate with Bitcoin, hold Bitcoin's price. Altcoins are naturally just going to keep on moving up. And you know what? You want it to have a Bitcoin season and you want an altcoin season. That's what you're really looking for. And that's sort of what we're kind of getting right now. There's just no clear dominance. There is a dominance, but you get what I'm saying with it. All right? I hope that makes sense, ladies and gentlemen. It might have been a little bit too much information there, but if it makes sense, happy days. We're all going to win. Okay? Cool. Let's have a look at where we are with Bitcoin right now. Starting to climb up ever so slightly, and the markets are open. Any other questions? Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, if you are new to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe on the way out. Platinum members, I've got some flavor for you coming to you very, very shortly. I'm going to leave. Okay. Where did you get the glass ball at Atanas? I'd love to have glass ball. Where's that? The glass ball. What glass ball? Huh? You are a... Stop talking about Japan. You are a getting... Huh? I'm always going to talk about Bank of Japan. I'm always going to talk about Bank of Japan. Always. That's the flavor, man. Bank of Japan is the underdog. Bank of Japan runs it because he's got so many dollars tied into it. Largest US debt holder. Man, shut up, man. I'll always talk about it. People making predictions, Tino, they probably are. And Tino, when you talk about depth of market, how much did you pay for the shirt? Tino, when big boys are selling into retail on depth of market, what does this mean? You've answered your question. They are selling into retail. It means they're offloading. It means retail's screwed. 100K, call it a day. Only because it rhymes, you know? I don't, prop firms are all over the spot right now. I've got one account with Apex, and that's it, 'cause I closed off all my accounts with them, withdrew everything because I had a windfall of a win, and they wouldn't pay on me. They wouldn't pay me out, and I said, forget that. So now I'm just trading my own cash. Any other questions? Tesla mooning. Where's Tesla? Come on, man. You know what? I'm never going to respond to anyone that says asset A is mooning. What kind of moon is that? Sailor Moon? Have a good day, guys. Peace. Sailor Moon.